Thank you for being with us on Real Estate in the Lowcountry. With me now is Kate.Herman, and she is, of course, with Goosehead Insurance, and we're going to talk life changes today.
Life changes.
You have a life change coming up in November, I just found out.
You're
getting married.
I am getting married.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Well, and I learned through getting engaged that there are pieces of things that you should probably pay attention to when you're getting married that you need to look at with your insurance. But it's not just marriage. Your kids moving out, your kids going to college, your kids moving back in, you having a baby.
Right.
There's lots of things that your insurance agent should probably know about, so we can help walk you through the scenario to make sure you're properly covered for all the situations.
And I think that's really interesting because, I mean, I don't know that insurance is at the forefront of everybody's mind every day, maybe. So, you know, what are those triggers? I mean, you just went through a few, but like, how often should we be calling? It's like, oh, this happened. Do I need to call it now? And because car insurance does like every 6 months it renews, homeowners is every year. So what are we talking about in terms of when we need to be looking at those things?
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting engaged, I mean, that's a huge investment that you're putting into one piece of jewelry.
Right.
And traditionally, as homeowners insurance goes, if you have high value jewelry, there's either a separate policy that we could write for you that covers it individually, or we could put it on your homeowner's insurance. There's a couple of different options that we could do. We like to schedule it on its own, because if you lose, like if I lost this ring and if I made a claim, it would follow me on my homeowner's policy if I didn't have it on a separate policy.
Okay.
So then we would have had a homeowner's claim, which would have made my homeowner's premium go up.
Right.
And we already know what homeowner's insurance is doing.
Right.
So
we're talked about that every single time.
Yeah.
So
we're trying to keep it separate now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I would say that as you're approaching any kind of renewal, like autos are typically 6 months to a year, you can't have annual terms. But as you're approaching any kind of renewal, just think like, oh, what have I had happen in the past 6 months to a year? Because everybody's lives are changing all the time.
Right.
But especially with the kids going to college, are they bringing a car with them? Is it in state or out of state? There are certain situations where we would want to update the policy, because if they're going to a different state and that state doesn't recognize your insurance, that could be an issue.
That could be a big issue.
Yeah. Small problem.
Yeah. or a really big one, depending.
Well, especially if it's kids getting in an accident, right?
Right.
And that's a really sad day that no one wants to have that conversation.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, and when we talk about kids growing older and maybe turning 25 or graduating from college, then what is the point that they will fall off of different insurances, health insurance, car insurance, or they should be taken off?
Yeah, health insurance is different. I wish we could do health insurance.
Yeah, I know that's not your, I know that's not your thing, but those other places, I mean, when they hit those milestones, there are differences.
Yeah, and it's for young drivers, typically around 23 to 25 is where you can start being on your own and having it not be egregious premiums. Right. Because as you age, you start to go from absolutely young as possible driver to like youngish, and the premiums are not as scary.
You've got some years under your belt of no accidents and things,
Got some driving experience. Yeah. But the biggest thing that I see happen, especially with car insurance, is when your child moves to a different state, even if they don't have a car. I get calls all the time where someone's like, my daughter's moving out going to college, please remove her from my policy. I'm like, let's wait a second, because if your child is moving out, even though they live in a different state, they claim your house as a primary residency.
Right.
And then if they have a gap in coverage because they're not getting car insurance up there because they're not driving anything,
right,
that can be really hard for them to get car insurance in the future, because then it shows a lapse.
Interesting. And I, if I'm correct in this, because I think we had that conversation at one point when my son was doing that exact thing, and it wasn't that big of a difference in premium. It didn't take it down drastically, so it was like, okay, that makes sense to just leave it for now.
Right, and it just depends on the scenario. If your child has had many accidents, we might want to talk about some different solutions, maybe getting a bike. But I would say that the biggest pieces are kids moving in, kids moving out, having kids, and getting married are the biggest pieces where I would say call your agent, let them know, see if we can have a conversation just to touch base and make sure that we've got everything, all of our I's dotted and T's crossed.
For sure.
Yeah.
So if somebody is having a life change and they need to talk to you, how do they get to you?
Well, I know that our number and website is going to be on the
prominently
screen.
displayed, so you don't have to like remember it, but that's okay.
Yeah, give us a call. Come into our office. We are right next door to WHHI, and we would love to talk to everybody and see what we can do to be of service.
Well, it's always great advice from everybody at Goosehead, so thank you for being here today, Kate. We appreciate it.
Thank you.